Hello everyone and welcome back. So the Lords of the End Times DLC and its adjoining patch will release at some point this century. We still don't have a lot of information on it because Creative Assembly have, in the last 2 or 3 years, adopted a let's stay as quiet as possible approach, which I don't agree with, but hey, it seems to be working for them so far. Now, alongside the DLC, we're expecting a very large patch. This has been billed as the largest project they've done so far for the Warhammer series, and we know that Archaon the Everchosen is going to get a rework, alongside the Vampire Counts, which, you know, has taken a lot of time, despite how popular they are, but this isn't really going to be about them, although we will briefly talk about them in this video. I do want to focus around some other aspects that I'm hoping is going to be touched upon during the Lords of the End Times. Now, hopefully by then, we've got ourselves the AI rework, which is supposed to release before the Lords of the End Times. Who knows when that's coming? And yes, I know some people are going to be talking about the Siege stuff, but we know that that's going to be after the Lords of the End Times DLC. Hopefully we aren't going to be waiting too long for that. So they specifically mentioned Archaon's getting a rework, which is great, but I'm hoping that some stuff is going to come into the Warriors of Chaos. This is something that's really important to actually look at. Right now, the Warriors of Chaos have no incentive to go down into the actual world. Their campaign is horrendously focused on just staying within the northern and southern Chaos wastes and not pushing down because there's no Dark Fortresses. So really, there needs to be something there for Dark Fortresses. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but it needs to be pushed out even further. We need to keep talking about this, or else Creative Assembly are going to think that there's no problem. Don't get me wrong, the Warriors of Chaos rework that came in Champions of Chaos is fantastic, but this was the weakest point, and it feels really strange that it's been a few years now, and Creative Assembly have still not tackled that. Creative Assembly need to introduce the construction of extra Dark Fortresses in areas that aren't Dark Fortresses, right? So like provincial capitals in the Empire, Grand Cafe, and the rest of the world that isn't in the Northern and Southern Chaos Wastes at the cost of souls. We have this mechanic because, well, you know, the Chaos Dwarfs can do that. They can create their provincial capitals with more of their own resources. So why can't the Warriors of Chaos? This will give more incentive for the players to go down and to actually wreak havoc on the old world. I love playing the Warriors of Chaos, and I can't play it without the extra Dark Fortress mod because it just makes a lot more sense. Have this in, put it between a cost, right? It's just souls, it's not that difficult to come across, and there you go. It'll give you more incentive to push down and actually do a full world conquest. Yes, this doesn't solve every problem because the vassal system is atrocious for Warriors of Chaos, but I think we need a vassal rework, and that's not going to come in during the end times. That's going to have to come in its own dedicated patch if Creative Assembly are actually willing to do so. Let's move on to the Skaven. I don't think big changes are coming into the Skaven. They haven't been confirmed just yet, but let's be honest, right? It's Skaven. They are so important to the end times that if Creative Assembly decided not to do Thankwall, someone's going to have to put the guy who's been posting every single day since the end times got announced on a watch, right? Really, all I can say here is Plagues for Skrulk. Yeah, you know, at one point I was going to have to mention it in this video. But right now, it's the last major clan without a unique mechanic to the race, so Plagues would be a good reason to go back to Skrulk. The main thing about DLCs is that you go back to the other factions and play them just to see how it works with the new units and really just to have another experience. Now, Queek and Tretch do need something, but I imagine that Queek will get something in some sort of Carrack 8 Peaks patch if Creative Assembly remember that that's something that people have been asking for. And Tretch, well, who knows? I don't think we're going to get a Pestilence-style DLC, even in the form of character packs. I could be proven wrong there, but yeah, I feel like fixing up the last major clan would be a great way to win some extra favor, especially since DLC has been taking some time now. That being said, I'd not be opposed to a general cleanup of the tech tree. Everything else with the Skaven's perfectly fine, but the tech tree is a little bit meh, right? Especially since the clan sections could be larger, it could actually be taken to like Skaven Society and Skaven Clans, you know, do those cuts like they've been doing lately, separating them, it just feels a lot better, which could then be better for clan-specific playthroughs, getting the text revolving around your clans a little bit faster. Molder, for example, you need to go through the clan rat tree first to get there, it takes a while, and you really want those monsters buffed up as fast as possible. Alright, Tomb Kings. So I'm really hyped that Tomb Kings are going to get some content. It makes sense, obviously, as Nagash is Nehekaran, but There's something that's kind of weird. Obviously, Tomb King's got a update in 6.3, I believe, which did fix up a lot of problems. But still, the Legendary Lords don't really have anything to kind of distinguish themselves from everyone else. And while some people would say that's not needed, I feel like certain lords could do with a little bit of a push, even if it's relatively minor. Arkan, for example, could have a small update to treat him like a sub-faction. He is the Hand of Nagash, he does have access to some of the vampire count units, but it would be nice if he had a little bit more, a little bit of a mix here and there, as that would just help out tremendously for a little bit more of a faction roleplay. And to be fair, we don't really have a lot of sub-factions when it comes to Total War, and it kind of sucks. Cetra has a really good push with extra growth when taking over settlements, but it would be nice if he had an extra campaign mechanic which focused around building all the special pyramids. It just kind of makes sense for him to revive I don't think is the proper word because they're all skeletal, but reinvigorate, I guess, Nehekara as a whole. Think of it kind of like how the Lizardmen have their web, but only centered around Nehekara. Have that focus around the landmarks and get some extra bonuses that scale up. He's going to need it if he's going to launch an invasion of Nagashizar and deal with Nagash, because, I mean, well, we're expecting Nagash to be very, very strong, right? Khalida should have something to focus around hunting vampires, maybe just random missions popping up to get some bonuses, and that would work really well. There's a decent amount of vampire camp factions. Obviously, Neferata's coming. Her cousin or sister needs to be hunted down. If you're asking about the sister comment, it's because apparently the old world has made them sisters. So retrospectively, you know, any lore in here would mean that they're sisters now. But there's another comment that they still might be cousins, so cousin sisters. Look, Nehekarans, like ancient Egyptians, their bloodline is basically a roundabout, right? So, anyways... There needs to be a focus to hunt down more vampire count factions with just a little bit of direction rather than just kind of do your own thing. The books on Nagash are fine, it's kind of boring. The same thing for Katep. Yes, even I'm acknowledging Katep. So, Katep was like sent lore-wise to go and find whatever could cure the Nehekarans of what has happened, right? What if, again, some random missions popped up, take over this settlement to destroy that faction, kill this character, and that would provide special items for the faction only available to Katep. I know a lot of people think that the Tomb Kings are fine, but I feel like some variety could come in. It's something that's kind of needed for a faction that doesn't really have too much. Yes, the Chaos Dwarfs don't have anything going on for them, but you have to keep in mind that the Chaos Dwarfs have a very structured campaign. Whereas, well, the Tomb Kings, it's just go get the books. That's not fun. Okay, so now we have to talk about the Vampire Coast. Now, the Vampire Coast aren't really attached to this DLC, barring the fact that Lufa Harken is a plot point for our good buddy Nagash. I don't think that they're going to get an overall rework. I don't think they're going to get any new content, barring potentially Nagash's Law of Magic, because, well, I mean, everyone got access to that lore during a certain point of the end times, even dwarfs. It was a silly time. But what they could do is with a minor update. Because people are going to be incentivized to try out Harken for lore purposes, you know, see if you can join up with Nagash, be his servant, which would be kind of cool. And we'll talk about that in a second. But it would just be nice to get a small update, you know, fix up the tech tree, which is desperately needed, fix up some building stuff, you know, kind of change up the economy a little bit, and it's all good to go. I feel like that would give an incentive for people to go back into the Vampire Coast. It's a faction which I very much doubt is going to get any other content, like no character packs or whatever, so having at least something would be nice. It's a good DLC, it just hasn't aged too well from the very basic stuff. Now, as a last point, there is something I'd like to see. I'm not sure if Creative Assembly have thought of this, or if it's something that might be out of scope, but for every undead faction and chaos faction respectively, I'd like to see them being able to submit to the main faction. So this is kind of similar to Vassals, but very different, right? The idea here is, what if you don't want to play as Archeon? What if you don't want to play as Nagash? You're playing as a standard Chaos faction or a standard Undead faction, and if they come into power, so you know, Nagash kind of rising, or Archeon getting all the gifts, having some sort of like pop-up, right? Which you'll be presented with some options. One, choosing to serve. You'll be granted vision of Nagash and all his other subjects, and you'll be given missions on a periodic basis, where you'll be able to get some powerful booms, some faction effects, some just items in general. But if you don't do it in time, you'll get some negatives too, kind of like a punishment. The other option would be refusing, and you'd have a massive negative against that faction. So like very likely Nagash will declare war on you because anti-player bias and the rest, and that means his other factions would. And then the other last option would be outright war, where you declare war on them preemptively. I think that could work out quite cool. The idea there is just allowing for the infighting of the undead factions and the chaos factions, but also keeping it on theme with a rising, growing threat. Now, what would make this different to being a vassal is that if, say, Nagash gets into a war, he can call you in, but you can decline it. You'll have some negative issues, and you can work around that by fighting other enemies that Nagash may have, or just supplying tributes, maybe even have a thing about donating units. Stuff like that would be kind of cool. Same thing with Archeon. The idea here is just something very, very different, and going against the issues that we do have with vassals. Now, I still believe that vassal reworks need to be redone, you know, well, done in general, redone, who knows. The vassal system just isn't good right now. Same thing as alliances. But this could try maybe add in a different type of play. Could be kind of curious to see how that could work in a multiplayer setting. But at this point, I think that the multiplayer stuff is just left in bare bones. Who knows if we can get more stuff there, but the idea here is just some fun stuff, right? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below to start a bit of a discussion. I just want to talk about the end times because at some point Creative Assembly needs to talk about it, right? If you're in Europe, hopefully the weather isn't too bad because, oh my god, it's really bad here in England. I'm telling you that. It's absolutely wild. So I'm sorry that I'm not able to get much content out. I'm trying my best to make sure that I'm like being consistent, but it's like 35 degrees in my room right now where I'm recording. And it stays like this throughout the remainder of the day until like 4 a.m. and then it's like 2 hours of respite. It's pretty brutal. Drink plenty of water, guys. Have a good one. Bye.